Welcome to Rooted Within with Lily and Dan, a podcast that shines a spotlight on positive change makers sharing their stories of legacy, inspiration, and impact.
We're on a roll, Dan.
We are on a roll.
We're back.
I was literally just like,
What have you lost?
I had a senior moment. I just put my phone down. I was like, where have I put my phone? I just seen this on the floor. It's right next to it. Anxiety away from my phone.
I'm sort of like, should I ask you how you're doing?
What?
Because, you know, when the episode goes out, it's going to be a different day.
Yeah, it'll be on different days.
Yeah, so how are you doing today?
Like, it's good. I'm good today.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I've just had another espresso.
I know.
Because we've just recorded back-to-back a couple of episodes.
I know. We've done. It's been an interesting day.
It has been. It's been a great day.
And we're going to finish it with even more interesting
We're saving the
stories.
best for last.
Saving the best for last. Who's in the studio, Dan?
We have Flora. Welcome.
Hey, hi.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's very good to have you here.
Sorry about the parking.
Yeah, that should be a caveat to everything.
Sorry for the parking.
Sorry for the parking. Is that you just said you're like, rushing to
It's testing your speaker, you know, it's like get hot, get sweaty, worry about being late.
Do you really want to do this?
Then anything after that is going to feel like a breeze because we get lots of people that come in and go, oh, I'm a bit nervous. But after trying to park, they're like, right, what do you need from me?
Like, I park in Cluster J, which is like a 10-minute walk. I'm sure I've got sunburn. Like, my face is on
literally go
fire.
around in circles.
Anyway.
And then you just fight. I do, like, you know, you just go, you see a parking spot and I'm just like, I don't care. Taking it.
You're completely dissing our location right now. So let's move on quickly, please.
No, what it is it's such a busy place and it's so pumping.
Anyway, this podcast is not about your parking. It's about Flora. Welcome.
Welcome, Flora. Welcome again.
So how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm really excited to be here. We've been trying to do this for a while.
We sort of took a bit of a hiatus.
Yeah. I mean, well, I think for all of us, lots of stuff's been happening over the last few months.
Yeah.
It's just been trying to juggle it and bounce it back around. But everything happens for a reason.
Yeah, and we
True
bumped
story.
into each other randomly.
We did, yeah.
And yeah, we...
It was 1762.
Yes. No.
Oh, no. Take it back. For the first time in a very long time, I bumped into you on a music night down in Alcos, yeah.
Just opposite like, Matcha, the originals.
Yeah, and then you're like, oh, let's have a conversation.
We don't really know each other. Like, we crossed paths.
Well, that's the thing.
Well, technically,
sort of industry, right?
Sure. I mean, technically, you were my client.
At some point.
Yeah, when I was working on a project, which was a very big opening that we did in Abu Dhabi, which was incredible. Yeah, that's like kind of like
so we bumped into each other in something I wasn't planning to go, which was like this very spontaneous music event. And we're like, oh. And then said, okay, we should have coffee. And then I didn't really know, okay, we're having coffee. And then we met for coffee. And then we started.
Talk forever about all sorts.
Yeah, about life and our own processes and what we went through.
Because that's kind of what I really want to unpack on this one. You know, I think it's such an incredible journey that you've been through, we all go through.
Yeah. Well, you've had a bit of a transition, haven't you?
I've had a big transition,
Tell us a little bit about that.
Like from event industry, burning the candle at both ends. You know, we all know that this industry is a very stressful industry. Yeah. Can be quite toxic and, you know, the workload is quite intensive into where you are now.
But I fell into events. I was listening to one of your interview of Dan, just the two of you, about his life and where he came from and the clan thing and the fireman thing. I didn't know all of this. And I fell into events. So same. I didn't have that, but I didn't have that pull or that attraction like you. It just was practical. I moved to England. I ran out of money out of uni. I didn't want to go back home. And here I am in a call center in Fleet in England, 2 hours away from uni. And then because I didn't have a pass, I didn't know what I wanted. I just fell into events. And then fast forward 20 years later, I was still in events.
Yeah.
But did you enjoy it?
Well, that's a really good question because I literally have been thinking about this for the last 2 months more than I ever thought about it. And the truth is no.
Wow.
Like, it sounds a bit sad when I say that, but I was listening to you saying, is it that much? I don't know. Mm-hmm. I've always felt a little bit like different from people because they'll be like, oh, you keep getting this amazing job. And I had the ambition, right?
Yeah.
Ambition was there, the excitement. I was very good at organizing.
You're driven and determined.
Yeah, like super driven. But I never kind of even thought there was something else for me. Like I heard of people having a past and a purpose and being really excited. But me, I was going to work.
Did you enjoy in the beginning? Or was it always just a job? It's a means to an end.
It's
financial.
It was always a job. I'm not saying I've never had, and I've done some great stuff, right? But the people have excited me more than the actual event. Like when I was hearing you two saying, it changes people's life when you watch an opening ceremony. Yeah, did I feel my heart squeezed during some of the opening ceremonies? Of course. But for me, there was not that connection. There wasn't that fire or that excitement. Yeah. And so I went 17 years on the road between Australia, England, Hong Kong, the Middle East, in and out. And I landed at the Louvre, which is where we worked together. And I was just there for 6 months. And it was kind of a dream job at the time because I thought, they're going to do everything on the water. It'll be my first show on the water. And in the end, it was a bit more tamed. But I thought, this is really cool. In my head 4 years ago, I saw myself delivering this. And so I took the job. And then they asked me to stay for consultancy and then offered me that position as a director. And I've always, hated the idea of being full-time. It's always been freelance. No, I can't commit. I don't like politics. And then everyone turned around me. And I remember when I was offered the job and I was like, well, instead of being like, oh my God, are you thinking
because it's the Louvre.
Yes.
This is
especially for a French person, right? And I was like, I'm going to have to think about it. I like my freedom. And I could remember my boss at the time going, are you joking?
Did you just hear what I was like?
Yeah.
We're offering you a job at the Louvre.
Yeah. It's a massive role. It's an amazing opportunity. It's a massive income as well at the time. And I was like, yes, but I travel and I'm free. So I went home and I was like, what? Why are you considering this? Go for it. And then every single person I've spoken to thought it was outrageous that I even considered it. And the way I looked at it, the motivation I got with too, and I'm being really honest, was definitely the prestige and the money and thinking, hey, my Spanish teacher told me I was going to be a cleaner. Here I am,
Director of the Louvre, I've it.
Yeah, and it was that thing about I wasn't very an academic girl. I struggled at school. So it was a bit like, hey, see, you can get there in some ways. The bit I liked, which was different, I managed event as well and sales and all the visitor experience and stuff. But the difference for me was, I'm going to build something that can last. Because literally I had to create the department from scratch. That bit excited me. That bit lit me up. After that, the reality was more complex and it was really challenging.
Yeah, of course.
And it wasn't as I imagined it. But I learned a lot and I did build an amazing team. But it was I'm finally building something that's not going to be dismantled.
Because events are temporary.
Yeah.
You build something, it lasts maybe a day, a couple of days, a week, a month, but eventually it ends and it's gone forever.
And maybe that's why I never got so much. One of the reasons why I didn't get so much attachment, because people always say at the end of an event, oh yeah, I'm on a high and now I have the blues.
Yeah, the blues.
I can't remember what it's called.
It's called the blues.
Yeah, and I was like, guys, we can finally sleep and have life.
The practical.
I never got
you want
it,
to be the human.
But I would be quiet because those rap parties where people almost cry and hate themselves. And it's not that I had any judgment. It's just
that's what you are.
We just did a great job. So going back to your question, I'm now looking back thinking I didn't enjoy my job as a passion or a drive or something that I really feel. I loved people. I love helping someone grow up and grow. That was the only thing that interested. That was the only thing that got me that little fire in. So that happened through my entire sort of events life. And then I got to a point where I had pain in my chest every single day. I thought I was having a heart attack.
Yeah,
so
being there.
I had massive headaches all the time. Tick, tick, tick. And then I'm happy to say I was not aligned with the values of my management.
Yeah.
I was trying so hard to have common sense, take care of people but I had this narrative that no one could really relate to. I'm not saying they were terrible, but there was no. For me, it was like, wow, we've got an amazing project. It's an opportunity. We're building museums on an island next to the beach. This is really cool. It's a beautiful place. Let's make everybody happy. And I even had almost for a moment that maybe I could be full-time if I love the place.
Yeah.
It's comfy.
Yeah.
I can
set your
save. You and I talked about love, passion, and then money.
The reality of it all.
Yeah. And I thought, that could be really cozy. But there was something where I have to be honest with myself. I rock up at work and I'm not happy.
Yeah.
I'm battling on concepts I don't agree that are fundamental for me. They're value-driven, they're people-driven. And so just before COVID, I just thought 3 times before that, I thought I'm wrapping up, I'm done. And then I kept going. It was about 3 years. And then
What was the thing that made you say you were done?
To be fair, some safety.
Yeah.
Because finally I was having the most amazing holidays. I was driving the car I wanted. I was living in an amazing place. You know, I come from a family who was doing pretty well and very comfortable to bankruptcy. So I think there's always been an awareness that you don't muck around.
Yeah.
You've got to be a minimum serious. And I had personal projects that, you know, it was good to be in that position. And I loved my team. Like,
and that's what kept bringing you back.
Proud, right?
Yeah.
But at some point I went, the money, the team is no longer enough. They're now self-sufficient. I've built it.
You've done it.
I've built it so they can. So I was already on my way out a year before when I was quietly handing over, quietly training, quietly all of this.
Yeah.
And I just...
Was that consciously or subconsciously?
Partly subconsciously the first 6 months, last 6 months.
It was a conscious
I hadn't
decision.
made the decision. I actually went to a session that was a kinesiologist, which like checks your emotions through your muscles movement, that someone recommended me. And she was like, wow, you're angry. I was like, you're angry. She said, actually, it's really weird. She said, you're angry. And then the other thing that comes is courage. And she said, I don't really get courage. And she has this massive book, I don't know, like where she goes through the whatever interpretation of your muscles.
Yeah.
And I said, well, anger, I said, actually, it's good you brought it up because I was in the office of my boss, my boss's office, and I got angry, like within me, because we don't have the same priorities. Because now I've stepped up in a leadership level where I would make very, very different decisions.
Yeah.
And I remember walking out of that room and thinking, I don't want to feel that way towards my boss. This is not what I want to show to anyone.
It's not healthy.
It's not healthy, and it shouldn't be that way.
Yeah.
You should be supporting them and be there for them. But we're so, misaligned.
Yeah.
And I walked out and I also showed my frustration in front of a colleague of mine. And I was like, this is not how I lead.
Yeah.
I didn't burst or anything, but you could see I was pissed. I was not happy. So that the fact that I drove to Dubai early to go to this appointment that day, I said, that's where my anger is.
Yeah.
And then the second one was, she said, courage. I said, I really don't understand courage. Why is this coming up? I said, because I've always been bold with my choices.
Yeah.
I picked up my life at 19, moved to England with no backup plan. I've made quite a few decisions in my life, leaving jobs, jumping, making random decisions, purchasing. Like I just go with it.
Yeah.
Even though I've always wanted to be safe. And I was like, but I'm not brave here. Just sitting in that job that doesn't make me happy. I don't want to go to work every day. I wake up in the morning. I got to that point in my life where I was like, is it all there is about life? This was literally my question every single morning.
Is
and
this
I was like, surely there's more to it.
Yeah.
And so first came the relationship that I left, then I had to leave that job. So it was quite radical. Like,
Yeah.
So you
Just a complete life
wipe
shift.
the slate clean.
completely with zero plan. People speculated, she's taking that job. I had zero plan. My plan was,
I can't do this anymore.
I can't do this anymore. I need to get out. And
But you said you also walked out of a relationship.
yeah, so I did that a year and a half before.
And
So
was
the
that the
process
same
had
thing?
Process of
started.
Was it the same thing of having enough? You were living a life that didn't make you happy?
I was living in a relationship that didn't make me happy for years. And I just left home and reproduced what my family life was when I was a kid. So I ran away from it to walk back into exactly the same
Yeah.
pattern. And finally, years after trying, and finally it ended. So that was my first phase. And then COVID hit, literally the months of COVID, it happened. And then left. And then a year and a half later, I left this job with zero plan. I just thought I'm just going to chill. I'll find a consultancy job. So still no passion, no plans, no anything.
What gave you the confidence, if that's the right word, to leave that period of time? Like that made you go, right, okay, I'm gonna leave my job right now. Because you said you came from safety, security.
It was a discomfort. I really
I don't think
I
don't think it was a choice anymore.
Yeah.
It sounds like
Exactly.
it was no longer a choice.
It was like, it was visceral, right?
It wasn't like
it's you got to go.
There was no choice.
Yeah. And weirdly, you know, when you always look back, I've been saying for 3 years, I have something in the back of my head about what I should be doing, but I don't know what it is. And it's only when I stepped out of that job, and interestingly enough, the signs started showing up when I resigned, because people came in.
But sometimes you need to take
don't
that step.
leave, like you've had so much an impact, the values, like such positive thing. Now, not that many people in a company come and sit in your office or ask for lunch or like it wasn't like, I just enjoy working with you. It's like, you helped me do this, you changed my value, you gave me confidence, and I'm just like, oh, so all this extra stuff I do is actually appreciated. But because it wasn't a culture where anyone ever said thank you or recognize you for seeing, but I was like, okay, I'm parking it. And then they did a really beautiful, like, I have to say, the people of the Louvre, the one who showed up, and there were many of them, I was touched because I was like, I had an impact, and I didn't realize I had an impact.
Yeah.
That
you were just set up to do work every day.
But it was just my vision of how I saw things was actually resonating with people, right? It's just that I wasn't in the right
That's a nice gift.
structure.
Yeah.
So I left with that, and it's crazy, within literally, I said I was off for 6 months, right? Literally the next week, one of my friends who now left called me. She was there as well. She's one of my best friend, and she said, I need to leave too. She'd been there like longer than me. And at the end of the call, she said, oh, why don't you coach? Like, you know, you've reset me. I didn't know what to do. Now I'm ready. I've got a plan of action. I'm clear. I said, oh, coaches. We've had them at the Louvre, honestly, like, don't. It's just, I was so like not interested and didn't believe in it. Not that I didn't believe in self-work, because I believed in other modalities, but this I couldn't relate. Fast forward, I'm at a party, and someone who was in the team was before gave me a letter, and it's very sweet. Who gives you a letter now? Like the symbol of it. Now, but it's not my birthday, it's this girl's birthday. And she goes, read it tomorrow. And I opened it the next day, and it said, I want you to know, whatever you're going to do next, that you have made a difference to my life. That a year and a half after, I can see how different I am in the way I work. And you've become a friend and someone that I would always ask for advice and guide. And I welled up. That's the moment when my heart squeezed, because it was just such a beautiful, and then I thought, again, I don't know what's going on. And then there was this ad that kept coming up on Instagram, okay? And I'm not on Instagram at the time. I wasn't an Instagram person. I was like, I can't be bothered. I mean, this ad, I don't know. I was just not watching this ad. And after the call and after reading this card, which it was the same day, which feels like it was the same day, I watched the ad, and it was about what I do now, which is Rapid Transformational Therapy. And I was like, to me, it was like, suddenly I'm quite practical.
Get aligned.
Like, limiting beliefs. That's what it's all coded into our brain. And that's stopping us to do things. That explains why such didn't manage to get that manager role because of this. That's why I couldn't do this. That's why, and it was just so like, and because there was some science into it, and I was just like, oh, I like this. Oh, that's a tool I could do something with. And suddenly, I promise you, in 20 years, that was the first time that I had this excitement, like that fire. I can't explain
the thing that's been missing for so long in the events career.
It felt so like, it excited me. And I've never been before into studying or anything like that, like, or starting something new or working. No, that was not something I was looking for. And so they do an interview, and I didn't sleep that night. I was thinking, how crazy is this that I didn't even know this existed 24 hours ago, and now I want to get into this program.
Yeah.
And that's how it started. And then then it made it made no sense for me to change that course.
So for people that don't understand it, do you want to tell us a little bit about what this is?
Yes.
Yeah. So
how it works.
Yeah. So the way it works is we come on the planet, all of us young and excited and interestingly enough, confident, because you were asking that, did you think you were ever confident in one of the interviews? And the thing is, we're all confident. We rock up in the world. We're like, give me some love. I'm here, like waking up everyone around the house, not caring if you have food everywhere.
There's no reason not to think anything.
we're here for a reason, and all we're expecting is love and support, and it feels like it should be given, and we're not worried about how other people see us until a certain age. And then as we grow, we start discovering that, there's a lot of dynamics around us and tension and things. And then because we are little sponges, and because there's not this massive manual on how to lead your life, and your parents are doing the best they can, some of them aren't, but like whatever way
they're doing what they do,
the adults that are around you have their own stories, their own challenges, their own difficulties, and then you're just absorbing everything. And from that, your response to an angry situation, to a tension, to whatever event, it actually doesn't matter what it is, an arrival of someone in your life, whatever it is, you create a belief about it. So, for example, you could say, my dad is, for example, your dad's always cutting you off at the table for X reason, and you're like, okay, I can't really speak, right? Like I can't be heard, or I'm not interesting, or that kind of stuff. Or could be that a lot of the people I work with have gone through a divorce. I haven't, and it doesn't really make a difference whether you feel loved or not. It's like, if my parents is struggling, I can't help them, then I'm not good enough. And we're just accumulating, and it comes in every shapes and forms. And then as you grow up through your adulthood, the symptoms come out of these limiting beliefs, which are like anxiety and addictions and whatever, basically. Self-sabotage, procrastination. I mean, the list is long. Like anything that is actually doesn't feel good and that feels quite negative is often backed up by a limiting belief. But what happens is they're developed, right? We carry this belief created by a child that just arrived on this planet for a few years. And we carry them in our adult body and adult mind without realizing it, because they live in the subconscious, which is 95% of our brain. And that's what got me really excited. I was like, wow, we're not using 95% of our brain. And I think for me, when I realized it, the beauty of this is that, and I'll explain why it works so well in a second, is you literally not doomed. You know what I mean? Like we always think, it's a personality trait or something happened to me, or most people don't even realize it's something that has happened to them, and the way they've experienced it is what created the belief. But for me, it was like, do you mean I can love my body? Do you mean I can do whatever I want? Like it was just this realization that suddenly I could heal and move on. It wasn't this long-term therapy, and I have nothing against traditional therapy. But the beauty of it is you go to the source, you find the answer, and then you're able to reprogram. And when I say reprogram, is a mind learns by repetition. So I write literally recordings. I want to be a writer when I was 10 years old. Here we go. It's done that way. But I literally ask people, where do you want to be? What is life going to feel without feeling, for example, anxious or worrying about the future, and how you're going to show up in a room, and how is this going to, positively affect your relationship and all that kind of. So I write all of this, and then we go into the sessions, and in the session get put under hypnosis, which allows you to relax. That's all it is. You hear everything, all the sounds around you. It's just a state to just not be with your inner critical voice all the time. And then we go back to, hey, when did it start? I just done one about when did you stop being confident? And it's a client of mine who moved to Dubai, is from another country, and a family just, took on their old culture, and she felt really small all the time, that they had to be really quiet, that they were subculture, let's say. And she also was left at home having to manage a little brother when she was 7 years old and she was 4. So she was like, no one is hearing me out. I have to always be the best, but no one is there to look for me. I'm not loved, And then you carry that stuff. And, we've only started working together 6 weeks now. And she's like, I'm doing this, and I'm working at this, and now I'm showing up differently at work, and I'm going out with the girls, and I feel confident. Like from that trauma, from that moment, from that interpretation of parents. As she said, my parents were working hard. They didn't have much emotional intelligence. They felt they had sacrificed everything to bring us. So I should just shut up and not say I'm a little girl who's scared and wants to play.
What's the trigger or the catalyst for people to realize that they need to talk to someone about this, or they need support, or they need somebody like you to come in, have that dialogue? And that
That's
engagement?
a good question. I would just wrap up because it won't make sense for people.
Okay.
Sorry. So I give them a recording, and the idea of a recording about what you want, and it's using very specific technique like neurolinguistic, etc. But the idea is then you listen to it for at least 25 days because your mind learns by repetition. And what happens is you start creating new neural pathways in your mind. So it's almost like an electric grid or a motorway. It's like, oh, when I'm, for example, let's say public speaking or speaking like today, oh, normally I'm really nervous. You'll be like, I'm panicking. I don't want to do this. I fear it like this. But when we understood what has happened, then that's already a relief. Understanding allows you to solve a problem. But then the second part is to be able to program in, like a software on a computer, new beliefs, upload. It's an upload. It's an upload, and it creates literally new neural pathways in your mind. So when you're in the situation, you start using that neural pathway, and the neural pathway gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and then you pretty much only use this.
It's resolved.
Obviously we have like little nuances, but that's the basic of it, and that's what I love, and the results are here. And for me, it's like I'm the person who's clearing up your foundation so you can move on and continue to grow, right? I'm not like the solution for everything, but that technique, like my client said to me yesterday, but why isn't everybody doing this? Because this fast tracks so much pain.
So why is everybody not doing that?
So that's your question. Your question is, what do you need to...
What's the trigger for people to go, I need support, I need help?
Well, some people just don't believe that they've got an issue. Well, not an issue, but most people, if a belief,
people don't know what they don't know.
Yeah, when you think something is a belief, you think that it's sort of fact. Do you know what I mean? You don't realize.
You repeat it, I guess, often and often and often, or you've had it repeated.
You don't realize that you do have the choice of changing it.
Yeah.
You know.
I think there's not one answer, but I think pain becomes a drive. But I have someone who just started with me 3 months ago. He's a gentleman, and he met with frustration. He was like, surely I shouldn't be stuck, right?
Done.
And in his relationship, he's the one who's more open to this kind of thing. His wife is not at all. And he's like, how do I get her on board? Because this is so amazing. I think
frustration is also a pain. It's an emotional response.
Pain as literally physical pain, despair. But I think I like to believe, I don't know how you feel about this, Lily, but I feel that some people, even through all their programming, all their limitation that they have, they just have that sense that they're not meant to be living that way in pain and struggling. And I think the beauty of what we're doing today and all this information we have out there is now saying, well, it's up to you, but there's so many ways that you can start healing. Some other people, they have to be breaking up. Their partner saying, enough, I don't want to deal with this anymore. Other people have to face tragedy for it.
Change.
But I think some people, most people, not everybody, but a big part of people who come to me is, and my business coaches are always going mad when I say that's what people want. I say, no, it's fluffy. But they say, I want to be happy. I want to wake up in the morning and feel energized and excited about my day. I want to trust my decisions. I want to feel confident in who I am. I don't want to, doubt, question myself all the time. And I want to like who I am. And the other one is I don't want to worry about what everybody else is thinking because it's oppressing me. Like I'm generalizing. This is the main storyline of people coming to me. And then all sorts of things come out of the sessions that they may or may not expect. But for me, it's this need, it's this desire, I don't want this anymore.
The change. Fundamental is a feeling inside that people go, I just want something to change. Me to change, you change, something to change.
To me, it's about peace.
That's
a very
good way of describing it.
Because limiting beliefs and, trauma and triggers and all of that has a voice in your head that is really unhealthy.
Yes.
It's a very, and the more judgmental of a voice you have in your head, there's a lot more trauma in there. And I think, and with a lot of people I speak to, it's like, I just want peace because this voice is the voice that's with me for life. And I need this voice to just be my friend and not my enemy.
On that, do do you also think it's like an age, life journey, period of time thing as well? You know, like, I'm not going to generalize this, 'cause I think it is very general.
I don't know.
It's like, do you get to a certain period of life where you go like, I've had all of that, it's been whatever it is, and now I just want that peace?
I don't
Is
know.
that part of,
It's
human...
I think it depends on you as a person. Again, you know, but jump in. Some people I find are a lot more self-aware.
True.
And care a lot more about that journey. Like, I've always been fascinated about the mind. So, you know, understanding how the mind works, having peace of mind and all that. It's a journey I've been on for a very long time. Yeah. So I think there's some people who it is a part of who they are. And then I think for some people it gets to a point where it's a bit of a breaking point where it's like, I cannot, exist this way. And I'm like, I remember when my dog died. Mm-hmm. And I had an inability. I woke up one morning and I realized, I literally had an inability to show myself any compassion.
Yeah.
The voice in my head was brutal. Yeah. That voice in my head is a voice I never give to anyone else. Like, I would never let anyone speak to themselves that way or let them feel that way or, kick themselves while they're down. But I'm sitting there going, I am incapable of being compassionate. And the very next day I went to a grief counselor.
Thank God it's sorry. Have you always had that voice? And did you only just then realize?
No, I've always known the voice is there.
Everybody.
Oh, always known. That's
we all have it.
Yeah, everyone's got a slight judgment.
For me, because I've just resonated. Obviously, we've had the conversation previously, and my own personal experiences. Like, for me, the change was through pain. It was a moment, and you intervened, and was like, something needs to change right now. I had the voice, I knew it, I had the self-limiting beliefs and the doubts, still do. And it wasn't until you get to that breaking point where you go like, something has to really fundamentally change now. You're
and
like, I want peace.
Story.
I want something different.
But I think to your point, if I go back, I remember my brother asking my father, very young, Dad, we should go to therapy. And that's like...
You're like, what?
90s, right? So in his... Not that we really knew about it, but clearly he had that sensitivity. For me, I left home. I knew I had a story there that's why I left. And a girlfriend of mine that I started working in events in London said, oh, I'm seeing a therapist. My parents have been sending me there for a while. I'm like, oh, who is she? Because I was having nightmares, terrible nightmares, and I hated going home. Mm-hmm. Like, going home was, to me, I had rashes and my belly was getting, my body was just screaming, we're not okay. And I were
you ignoring it at the time?
No, I just didn't know what to do about it. Okay. But I knew it was a big discomfort. And so I went to see this lady. She was this old lady, and she helped me and she gave me one clue. I didn't have the money also. Mm-hmm. 22 years old. Mm-hmm. I don't have money to go to therapist that much. But that was my first tentative. And then when I was in my early 30s, so I didn't have a mind interest like you. My drive was love. Like, I was a bit of a romantic. We should be in love and happy and floating, and I shouldn't have this voice who puts me down all the time. I shouldn't be standing in front of my mirror criticizing myself all the time. I shouldn't be making myself small or worrying about, like, I knew that, but for me it was more, I had a romanticized idea of how it should be. So I got into my 30s and I can't sleep again, nightmares and stuff. Yeah. So I went to do CBT, cognitive behavior therapy, which for me didn't, practitioner or the therapy, we're all different, but didn't hit the mark. And then it's when I was in my early 40s that when I separated, I was like, okay, I called a friend who's a psychologist, like, you need to get me through this process. I know it's going to be very difficult. And then 5 months later, I spoke to a friend. I'm like, I'm on edge. Mm-hmm. Something needs to happen here. So I started doing hypnotherapy and positive psychology. It helped me, but again, not until enough. I got to RTT, and it was in one session. Yeah. One session, I don't know, I look at myself differently. And I'm not saying, it's all rainbows and puppies and stuff.
But there's more peace.
The peace and the company I hold with myself is amazing. Yeah. There is no longer a judgment. I mean, there was a big thing about my body when I was a kid and kind of an obsessive way I grew up in. So that stayed with me. I look at pictures now, I'm laughing, going, obviously I'm older, but it's the same. Like, I looked absolutely fine. What was this obsession? What was I hating my body so much? Or why I was so obsessed about things, or why was I people pleasing all the time? I was a people pleaser from like, geez, like it's just so intense. So for me, I feel like every early in each decade, I was like, okay, I need something, something. But my biggest regret is that obviously artistry didn't come sooner, or that I didn't meet someone sooner who would have helped me more. Because for me, I'm someone who needs to understand things even more than normal, what people expect. And if I had understood that I had limiting beliefs that were keeping me in abusive situations and work alcoholic and all this stuff, because the two beliefs that came out of my first session was, they're basic, but they're real, is I'm not good enough. I have to keep trying at everything. And everything is hard work, which I know you mentioned. And for me, everything was hard work was a revelation. It was like, oh, that's why I keep going. That's why I keep killing myself, always pushing. Oh, that's why I'm forcing this relationship to try and find it. And it blew my mind away. And then when I did the rewiring, that piece, that like some people think it's cheesy and it's not real, but self-love is real.
No, very real, very real.
It's very real, and it's really amazing. And you show up so differently in your life, and suddenly you're present. And you're in the moment. And for me, I just feel like I've started, for me it was chapter 1 and chapter 2. Like now I'm just like, okay, now I have to make the best of my next 40, 50 years. Because I've so people don't like this way of looking at things, but I feel I've wasted some time. When we say, oh, you're all going through a journey, and I know it's controversial to say this, but you're here for a reason and you were taken through this journey. I'm like, okay, I could have done this for 2 years. I didn't need to do this for 13 years. I'm sorry.
You're going to make that journey shorter.
Life lessons, you're like, no.
And there's so much of this on social media, or people even in the spiritual world, which I love. That bit, I'm like, no, I wasn't meant. I didn't have to go through that lens, through that level of pain. If I had the tools, if I had understood.
But that's the thing.
The knowledge.
You said, why don't some people do it, or why isn't everyone doing this? Therapy's not cheap.
True, it's not accessible to everyone.
It's not accessible to everyone, and it's the one thing. Like I wash out my brain every week. It's my gift to me. I'll sit with my therapist. I'm like, let's wash it out, and it's the nicest thing to do. And I was chatting to her. I go, what kills me? What kills me is everyone should have access to therapy. Everyone, like physicality aside, but your mental health it causes physical dishealth, right? And looking at Dubai, if you don't have insurance to cover it, minimum, if you're lucky, you'll find 700 dirhams an hour, 45 minutes. So how are people supposed to do that? And the other thing is, even when you have insurance, from what I understand, most insurers, you still have to pay up front and then get reimbursed. I'm like, for whatever reason with mental health stuff. And I'm like, not many people have 800 dirhams a time to be able to upfront cash it.
But aside from the financial limitations, I guess there's also like a general lack of awareness, a lack of knowledge.
There is lack of awareness.
Like a judgment. The stigma. I was going to mention stigma because that's quite a big thing. When you start to then address, your flaws, challenges, your journeys, your stuff, like...
but people, the stigma with therapy is that there's something wrong with you. And it's not. If for you to go to a counselor or a therapist, there's something wrong with you. And it's like, no. If we go by that, then there's something wrong with everyone. I used to laugh with my mum. I go, Mum, no one gets out of childhood without trauma. Every single human being has trauma. It's not a bad word. It's not a negative thing. That's just life.
I think the word trauma is slightly negative.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, it would be really
but only
great.
Because you got a bad rap. Sorry. Because if you imagine trauma, if you give an image to trauma, it's a shock.
It's horrible.
Right? Let's take the word trauma. You got shocked. Something happened. You interpreted it a certain way. It shocked
stuck.
You, and it stayed with you.
Like what I'd love.
But I still tiptoe around the word trauma. I have to explain it in my discovery call. We do an introduction and people decide it. And I'm re-explaining 3 times what trauma is because I want to get an answer. And I go through 4 different definitions. For people say, actually, that is something.
And then
but if I say trauma alone, most people...
They go, no, I haven't had any. No.
Yeah.
My
Again,
childhood wasn't so bad.
But it's also, you know, we love our parents.
Yeah.
To say I had trauma, there's a part of you that feels like you are being disrespectful or not valuing what your parents gave you. I had two amazing parents. I have two amazing parents. No questions about that. But that doesn't change the fact that as a child, that child felt things that didn't feel good. Yeah. And then that sort of stuck. And then, you know, and I have the conversation with my mom. I'm like, you know, I love you. Nothing's going to change that. I go, but there's certain things that have stuck with me. And I don't want them.
Yeah, get red.
I go, it's that simple. I just don't want them.
Do you think from your experience that more and more people are now susceptible to addressing these challenges, you know, having those conversations with themselves of, I need support, I need help, I need a conversation? Are you seeing more and more of that happening?
I see more men for me, which really excites me. Yeah, because I started with 100% women and I was still niche, and I want to niche on other digital stuff I'm doing. Yeah. But on the one-to-one basis, I know 40% of my clients are
That's great.
Just under 2 years.
Yeah.
And they're all very different.
Yeah.
There's a couple, I'll be really honest, and they'll smile if I listen to this podcast, where I was like, okay, are we really doing this? And like, no, you're the person. There's no one else. I don't really believe in therapy, but I have a good feeling about you. Yeah. So whatever you're doing, just do it to me. Yeah. And I've got this gentleman who's like, I've been always interested by this, and now I'm here having to face myself with challenges I can't fix on my own.
But in order for it to be successful, do you have to be open to whatever that journey is moving forward?
I think you have to be a minimum curious and wanting change. To reassure everybody, you don't have to know. Yeah. You don't have to be confident about it. You don't have to be sure.
Trust the process.
It's trust. Give it a shot. What do you have to lose? Like, what do you have to lose? There's so much discomfort. I think for me, where it's a little bit controversial is that we say we can help people within 4 months, and a lot of more traditional therapy would say this is impossible.
Talk therapy would say it's impossible.
Yeah, it would say it's impossible. You need to build a relationship with a therapist. And no, it's another tool. The brain works this way. Yeah. I have clients who are still going to their therapist because she or he is giving something different. It's
different. It's a different type of therapy.
But they are still doing their therapy, but they come to me because we're blocked on this. Yeah. I'm getting unblocked. I have clients that, not a lot actually, but I have some clients who say, I like chatting with this person. I'm like, yeah, and I'd love to do this with you, but this is not my mission. Yeah. Like, this is not where I come in. Yeah. We all have a space to do things. And the girls who come in, we go deep. Yeah. We reprogram it. Off you go, and you can go and do somatic, experiences, walk through your body, breath, different type of therapy. But at least we've put you on a motorway where you find release quickly, where you find peace, much more peace quickly, and then you continue your growth journey, which we all know is out of no hands.
Because you mentioned within 4 months.
Yeah.
What's the average time frame of, I would say, like a reprogramming, like
I'd say 80% of my clients within 4 weeks.
Within 4 weeks, 4 months.
Pretty. I'd say the big part is within 4 weeks. I'm saying 80% because...
And when you say 4 weeks, that's like once a week?
No, it's
every day,
so
3 days.
2 hours, 2.5 hours, and then I listen to the recording for 25 days. Okay. I'm here to support on WhatsApp through the process, which for me is really important. Yeah. And then we meet after 25 days and we go, okay, and I open the floor. Yeah. And then I go back to what they told me, and some people go, did I say that?
Must be completely different.
Oh, wow, okay. Yeah. And then we find there's 30, 20, 40% we still need to work on, and that's what we spend more time on. And then other people are so receptive that we move on to another topic. Yeah. And other people, I've had a gentleman, I've had the first session had to be split across 5 hours. Yeah. Because we've had to go through his own pace, and it was a lot for him.
What happens when if you've got someone, they've got a limiting belief, but they can't figure out where it started?
I've never had anyone in that case. So I'm at client 95 so 95 people, that's my data. Yeah. 95 people, it hasn't happened with anyone yet. Mm-hmm.
Okay. You can always relate it back to something.
Yeah.
Yeah, because remember, it doesn't have to be exact. We're not going back to this exact.
The specific moment.
It's what did you experience?
Yeah.
What did you feel at this moment? I have people who go, I'm not quite clear. Like, I can feel like there's adults around me. But how do you feel in that moment?
Yeah.
And then you get to believe created. So it's not about getting it right. You know, it might even be a story that is mixed a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's how you experienced it that created the belief.
Yeah, that feeling.
It's not necessarily the fact. You could have two people, let's go in the extreme, physically extreme violence, abuse. They might have walked away very differently from it.
Yeah.
One might have gone, no one, I will never let anyone hurt me anymore. And the other one would be, this is all my fault.
Yeah.
And I'm a victim, and that's what I'm going to be the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that this person hasn't suffered.
Yeah.
But that person may have taken, I'm precious and I won't let anyone do this to me again, versus look at me. Of course they did this to me. I deserve it, whatever narrative.
Yeah.
So what's next?
I have big ideas. I love my one-to-one work, but I also love speaking to larger crowd because I want to spread that message.
Yeah.
I want people to know that there are solutions, that there are possibilities.
Yeah.
So I've done a little bit in events because whilst I don't want to go back into that industry,
It's a platform.
To me is like I spoke at COP for a team of 800 plus people. It was the first time I spoke to so many people. And for me, it was so rewarding. It was very emotional because I walked in this massive tent, and suddenly it was my entire life of events walked in. There was people from Australia that I hadn't seen in 15 years, you know. And then the brief changed. I changed from half an hour to 15 minutes. And then two people that I know said, actually, we don't need, could you just talk about how do we handle stress and self-critique and panic to fail? Because we're seeing that's what people are struggling with. I haven't prepared that.
Yeah.
And so off I'm on my feet, and still today, and that's where I feel that I can give something.
Yeah.
I have people on LinkedIn or random people saying, oh, you're the girl that my friends saw speaking. And when they did a little gathering at the end, two people came to me at the bar and said, there is that one thing you said, but because you understand our industry, you didn't give us something that we couldn't do.
Yeah.
You gave us something to deal at the time, and I remember this, and it really helped me. So more of this engagement on a larger scale to go and educate. I'm very driven in giving solutions. Honestly, I don't do subconscious work with people group-wise. A lot of people do. I don't think it's safe. I want to accompany people through this. You can still do a lot of great stuff with subconscious, but not go back to your childhood, let's say. I'm also looking at launching a community for women, which would be, I call it like, I haven't got a name yet, but it's all around that safe space where you've got it in your pocket and you need a reframe. So instead of spinning, because we love our girlfriends, we love our friends, but sometimes they have their own story, they're not available, or they don't have the tools to guide you. I just see so much with my clients how much a sentence, a tip, a little insight. So it's not one-to-one therapy, but it's creating that community where you can just come up with whatever challenges is, and it's more around confidence and self-doubt and handling everything and trying, so I'm still working on this. It'll come soon, but I just feel women are amazing, and I have an amazing network of women around me, but I know a lot of women who don't. A lot of people who feel they're very alone in their day-to-day struggle. And when I see my client and I can give them these tiny tools, and not even subconscious work, tiny tools, and like, oh my God, that's changed my life. Even redoing your morning routine or communicating to your partner differently, or, understanding how your brain is working, how this critical voice is working. So I want to make this accessible, and then hopefully find another format for men. The only reason why I picked women is obviously, for me, there are topics that I can
relate to.
Relate to. And secondly, I had more response on my digital courses online from women than I did from men. So I said, let's just one step at a time. Yeah. So I really want to launch this because there's
amazing.
Thing in your pocket.
We'll be keeping an eye out for that. Yeah. Oh, it was lovely to have you
today.
Thanks for having me.
It took a while, but we got there.
Isn't it?
Always
too short.
It's good to finally make it happen, because I know we were talking for a long time, but the timing was right. It happened all right.
The timing was right.
Flora, thank you so much.
Thanks for coming in.
And good luck.
Welcome to Rooted Within with Lily and Dan, a podcast that shines a spotlight on positive change makers, sharing their stories of legacy, inspiration, and impact.